gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Let's go into our Waiver Wire Wednesday, though, because we got to help you guys win your fantasy football leagues this week. And to be honest with you, it is getting to crunch time. If you don't have a team that's in the race right now, you need to either figure it out and turn it around or just give up on it altogether, because it's really hard to come back if you're in 12th place. It really is. But at this point, I got a couple here for you. I know Sparky's got a couple here for you, so let's go down the line, starting with quarterback, at least for me this week. I'm going with Aaron Rodgers.
Ugh.
I know. It's not great, but hear me out on this. He's playing his Packers Sunday night. Aaron Rodgers in main games, or main event games, I should say, or Sunday night, Monday night games, thrives. He just had a 4-touchdown game against the Cincinnati Bengals last week on Thursday night, has had plenty of time to get ready for his former team. And to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure on what this defense looks like with the Green Bay Packers, even with Micah Parsons. That although he has been wreaking havoc on quarterbacks, they haven't exactly looked great. So if anything, I'm expecting Rodgers to at least drop 2 to 3 touchdowns, with Artie Smith and Tomlin looking to bounce back from that bad loss against the Cincinnati Bengals.
At the quarterback, I went with Joe Flacco, as he's under rostered. He's around 10% rostered. And he showed that, he has some in his tank, but really, I just think being in that offense with the receivers he's got, now they got Chase Brown moving like he's a running back again. I think Joe Flacco might be a good pickup, especially with these buys here and there coming up. And I know in most of my fantasy leagues, we're halfway. We're at the halfway point. So if you're right in the middle, you're fighting to get in. I have a quarterback that has a bye next week, so I picked up Flacco myself.
Honestly, I considered it. I really, really did, but I liked Aaron a little bit more this week, just after that 4-touchdown game he had last week. But to be honest with you, I did kind of find it a little bit funny that once they got Joe Flacco, the offensive line magically remembered how to block. Maybe Jake Browning wasn't as good of a quarterback as people thought he was. Let's move on to the running back position. Personally, I picked this guy, well, mostly because I love him, but at the same time because of matchups. Tyler Algier from the Atlanta Falcons. If you can pick up this boy, I'm telling you right now, sorry, Spark, but Atlanta's going to be running all day long against the worst run defense in the league, and I would not be surprised to see Tyler Algier see the end zone at least once in this game, and he traditionally does against weaker defenses, especially when Bijan needs a break. So I would ride with Tyler this week.
I mean, if you can still get him, I would as well, especially when he's playing the Dolphins. I went and I grabbed Monangai.
I almost put him on my list, but I'm skeptical that they're going to continue this two-back thing.
What I've heard this weekend is obviously Swift is the starter, but they're going to start mixing him in, and
he looked good.
In running backs, I'm just saying.
He looked good against
they're
the
hit and miss. I mean, I've been just picking up waiver guys every week, so I'm picking up this guy. I think he's got an upside, and especially how hot and cold Swift gets, I think it might be, especially with Ben Johnson's offense over there in Chicago.
I saw he was the number one waiver pickup of the running backs this week, and I immediately said, is DeAndre hurt? Did I miss something?
I was like, what?
Did I miss something here? And then I looked and said, oh no, they just figured out a two-back system, and now DeAndre is not going to have to run 50 times during a game for Chicago to be successful. Moving on to the wide receiver position, I'm going with Tez Johnson with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, Tampa Bay's wide receiver room is banged up. Mike Evans probably gone for the rest of the season. Chris Godwin is questionable. Ibuka is still dealing with an injury, but he'll most likely play. Tez Johnson will most likely step into that Chris Godwin situation, be the speed threat for him. Baker has shown at least that he can trust him a little bit more. I think he had 10 targets in the last game, and to be honest with you, with how thin this team has gotten with their targets, at least between him and Auden, I think it's going to be most likely Tez Johnson getting a lot of these looks. So I would go with Tez.
I totally agree with that one. With my receiver, I went with Xavier Legette in Carolina. He's picking up the carry, or he's looking at the targets. I know, is it Dalton this week?
Yes, it should. Well, that's still on the. It's kind of like Michael Penix right now. It's up in the air. They're expecting Dalton to start.
Well, the last two games, Legette has gotten 9 targets and 6 targets. Last week he had 92 yards and a touchdown. And now that the targets are starting to share with their winning streak, yes, the Panthers I'm just saying.
We got a promo running. You heard what I said.
It might be the playoff Panthers here in a couple weeks. We'll talk about that. But I think Leggett could be a nice sleeper, especially if you have guys on a bye or injury. And, dude, I'm so mixed up because a couple of the receivers I was looking at, well, in Washington, with all the injuries that they've had with the receiver, plus Jaden, they got some positive news that Jaden isn't going to be out for the season, but they haven't made any. He's listed as questionable this week. But with Debo, he's questionable. McLaurin has been getting back into practice but didn't play last week. So I think there's also, you might want to keep an eye out on who is starting at receiver in Washington if either of those guys are both out.
This is a good point. But to be honest, with Marcus Mariota as the quarterback, it's also kind of hard to trust any of the receivers because can Marcus even get them the ball? And if Jaden is out for the rest of the season, at least he can rehab with Juju, who decided not to play at all this year for USC. Good Lord. My tight end pick for this week, I'm going to butcher this guy's name. I know I am, and I apologize going forward to Charger fans, but
Oronde Gadsden.
Oronde Gadsden, absolutely. That's the guy I'm choosing, and it's only because how bad this offensive line has been banged up for the Chargers. Justin has to run a lot. He's going to be looking for these big targets, these short yardage guys, especially against Minnesota, who blitzes a ton and will blitz a ton against this banged up offensive line. So I would expect Gadsden to get a lot of looks from Herbert this week.
And he has. I picked the same thing. I love Gadsden, not only because his dad was a Miami Dolphin longtime receiver, but, of course, he blew up for his first game. We're starting against Miami.
Of course.
And he's had 8 to 10 targets each game after that. And the kid he's got skills. I think that even when the offensive line starts to recover, I still think Gadsden's going to be a pass catching for Herbert.
And for a team that's been looking for a good or a great tight end, I should say, since Antonio Gates left, I know they had Hunter Henry for a short moment, who was pretty solid for him, but wasn't the greatest. I think that they have been desperately looking for that game changer at tight end. And honestly, who's to say Gadsden's not that guy? Who knows? We'll see what we will see as the season progresses. That is our waiver wire pickups for you guys. The week. Hopefully those help you guys win your fantasy football matchups this week. Personally, I am absolutely riddled with injuries thanks to Amari and Hampton, Joe Mixon, and Mike Evans all being out most likely for the foreseeable future. And that does not bode well for you boy, but it is what it is.